Today we're going to talk about famous people who struggled with cocaine addiction. Cocaine is a powerful stimulant that can be addictive. It is often used recreationally because it can make people feel euphoric and energized. However, cocaine can also have serious side effects, including addiction, heart problems, and mental health problems. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the stories of some of these famous people and how they struggled with cocaine addiction. Number 1. Robert Downey Jr. is one of the most successful actors in Hollywood today. He has starred in some of the biggest blockbusters of all time, including the Iron Man, Sherlock Holmes, and Avengers franchises. He was born in New York City in 1965. His father was a filmmaker and his mother was an actress. He began acting at a young age, and by the time he was a teenager, he was already struggling with drug addiction. He started using marijuana and cocaine, and his addiction quickly spiraled out of control. In 1996, he was arrested for possession of heroin and cocaine. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation, but he continued to use drugs. He was arrested again in 1999, and this time he was sentenced to a year in prison. While he was in prison, he began to get serious about his recovery. He completed a 12-step program, and he started meditating and practicing yoga. After he was released from prison, he continued to work on his recovery, and he eventually got sober. Number 2. Drew Barrymore was born into Hollywood royalty. Her parents, John Barrymore and Jade Barrymore, were both actors, and she was exposed to the world of fame and excess from a young age. She began acting at the age of 5, and she quickly became a star. She starred in several successful films, including E.T. the Extraterrestrial and Firestarter. But despite her success, Drew was struggling with addiction. She started drinking and smoking at the age of 9, and she tried cocaine for the first time when she was 12 years old. Her addiction quickly spiraled out of control, and she was in and out of rehab by the time she was 13. She was arrested for underage drinking and drug possession, and she attempted suicide at the age of 14. But she eventually reached a point where she knew she needed help. In 1990, she was emancipated from her parents. This meant that she was legally an adult, and she was no longer under their control. She used this newfound freedom to focus on her recovery. She entered rehab again, and she began to work on her mental health. She also started to rebuild her career. She starred in several successful films, including Poison Ivy and Scream. She's been sober for over 20 years. She is a successful actress, a producer, and a talk show host. She is also a spokesperson for addiction awareness and prevention. Number 3. Demi Lovato was born in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 1992. She began her career as a child actress, starring in the Disney Channel television series Camp Rock and Sunny with a Chance. She also released several albums as a singer, becoming a successful pop star. But despite her success, she was struggling with addiction. She started using drugs and alcohol at a young age, and her addiction quickly spiraled out of control. She overdosed on heroin in 2018 and was hospitalized. After her overdose, she entered rehab and began working on her recovery. She's been sober since then, and she has spoken openly about her struggles with addiction. Her song Sober is a powerful and honest account of her struggles with addiction. The song has been praised by critics and fans alike, and it has helped to raise awareness of the issue of addiction. Number 4. Robin Williams was a beloved actor and comedian who struggled with addiction for many years. He started using cocaine in the early 1980s, and his addiction quickly spiraled out of control. He even said that cocaine, quote-unquote, slowed him down. His addiction led to a number of problems in his life. He was arrested for drug possession in 1982, and he lost his job on the television show Mork and Mindy. He also had a number of relationships that were affected by his addiction. In 1982, his friend John Belushi died of a drug overdose. This experience was a wake-up call for Williams, and he decided to get sober. He entered rehab and began working on his recovery. He remained sober for the next 20 years, but in 2006, Williams relapsed and entered rehab again. He remained sober for a few years, but he relapsed again in 2014. He died by suicide on August 11, 2014. Number 5. Whitney Houston was a superstar. She had the voice of an angel, and she was one of the most successful singers of all time. She was born in East Orange, New Jersey in 1963, and she began her career as a child singer. She released her debut album, Whitney Houston, in 1985, and it was a huge success. She went on to release several more albums, all of which were successful. She also starred in several films including The Bodyguard and Waiting to Exhale. She started using drugs when she was a teenager, and her addiction quickly spiraled out of control. She was in and out of rehab several times, but she never seemed to be able to stay sober for long. In 2012, she was found dead in the bathtub of her hotel room at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. She was 48 years old. The cause of death was accidental drowning, but cocaine use was also a contributing factor. Her story is a complex one. She was a talented singer who was also a troubled woman. Her addiction was a result of many factors, including her childhood, her upbringing, and her experiences in the music industry. Her mother, Cissy Houston, was also a singer. She was a strong and independent woman, but she also struggled with addiction. Whitney grew up in a household where drug use was normalized, and she was exposed to it at a young age. And her father, John Houston, was a talent manager. He was also a controlling and abusive man. Whitney's relationship with her father was difficult, and she often felt like she was not good enough for him. She was a talented singer, but she was also insecure and vulnerable. She turned to drugs to cope with her pain, and her addiction eventually destroyed her life. Number 6. Angelina Jolie is a household name. She is one of the most successful and acclaimed actresses in Hollywood, and she has used her platform to raise awareness about important issues such as human rights and refugee crises. Angelina Jolie was born in Shawnee, Oklahoma in 1975. Her parents, John Voight and Marceline Bertrand, were both actors. Jolie had a difficult childhood. Her parents divorced when she was a baby, and she lived with her mother and stepfather. She was also sexually abused by her father when she was young. She started using drugs when she was a teenager. She was struggling with the pain of her childhood, and she found that drugs helped her to cope. Her addiction quickly spiraled out of control, and she was in and out of rehab several times. In the early 2000s, she decided to get sober. She entered rehab and began working on her recovery. She has been sober ever since. Number 7. Richard Pryor was a legendary comedian who was known for his raw and honest humor. He was also a drug addict. In the 1970s, he was spending $100 a day on cocaine. He said, "Drugs may start out fun, but they never end in fun. The horror they brought me every night and the guilt they brought me every day is what drugs are about." His drug addiction had a profound impact on his life and his career. It led to a number of problems, including financial difficulties, legal troubles, and health problems. It also affected his relationships with his family and friends. In 1980, he had a near-fatal drug overdose. He was found unconscious in his hotel room with third-degree burns over half of his body. He had set himself on fire while freebasing cocaine. After his overdose, Pryor went to rehab and got sober. He went on to have a successful comeback, but his drug addiction had left a lasting mark on his life. Number 8. Kate Moss was one of the most successful supermodels of the 1990s. She was known for her waif-like figure and her edgy style, but behind the scenes, Moss was struggling with drug addiction. She started using cocaine in her early 20s. She said that she used it to cope with the pressures of her career and the pain of her personal life. In 2005, she was caught on camera snorting cocaine. This led to her being dropped by several fashion brands, including Dior and Chanel. She also lost her modeling contract with Calvin Klein. Her drug addiction had a devastating impact on her career and her personal life. She lost her friends, her career, and her reputation. She also had a number of health problems, including pneumonia and an eating disorder. In 2014, she entered rehab for the 9th time. She has been sober since then. She has also spoken openly about her addiction in the hopes of helping others who are struggling. Number 9. Stephen King is a best-selling author of horror novels, but he is also a recovering drug addict. He has spoken openly about his addiction in the hopes of helping others who are struggling. He started using cocaine in the early 1980s. He said that he used it to cope with the pressures of his career and the pain of his personal life. His drug addiction quickly spiraled out of control, and he was in and out of rehab several times. In 1987, his wife Tabitha staged an intervention. She confronted him about his addiction and told him that he needed to get help. King agreed to go to rehab, and he has been sober ever since. In his book On Writing, King writes about his addiction and how it affected his life. He says, "I was a writer who was also a drug addict, and that was a bad combination. The drugs made me think I was a better writer than I really was, and they also made me careless. I made a lot of mistakes during those years, and I paid a high price for them." King is grateful to be sober today. He says, "I'm so glad I got sober. It's made all the difference in my life. I'm a better writer, a better husband, and a better father. I'm also a better person." Number 10. Steven Tyler has been very open about his struggles with drug addiction. He has said that he started using cocaine in the early 1970s and that his addiction quickly spiraled out of control. He has estimated that he spent millions of dollars on cocaine in the 1970s and 80s. His drug addiction had a profound impact on his life and career. He lost his home, his money, and his bandmates' trust. He also had a number of health problems, including heart problems and pneumonia. In 1988, Tyler's bandmates staged an intervention. They confronted him about his addiction and told him that he needed to get help. Tyler agreed to go to rehab, and he has been sober ever since. Number 11. River Phoenix was a young actor who had already achieved great success by the time of his death. He had starred in several critically acclaimed films, including Stand By Me and My Own Private Idaho. But behind the scenes, Phoenix was struggling with drug addiction. He started using drugs at a young age. He was introduced to cocaine by his older brother Joaquin. His drug use quickly spiraled out of control, and he was in and out of rehab several times. On October 31, 1993, Phoenix overdosed on cocaine and heroin outside the Viper Room, a nightclub in Los Angeles. He was pronounced dead at the age of 23. Number 12. Tim Allen was convicted of drug trafficking in 1979. He was found with 650 grams of cocaine, and he was sentenced to 3 to 7 years in prison. He served 2 years in prison, and he has been sober ever since. He was a struggling comedian at the time of his arrest. He had been using cocaine for several years, and he was addicted. He was arrested at the Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport in Michigan after a drug deal went wrong. Allen spent 2 years in prison. He says that this time in prison was a wake-up call, and it helped him to realize that he needed to get sober. After he was released from prison, Allen went to rehab and got clean. He has been sober ever since. He has gone on to become a successful comedian, actor, and producer. He's best known for his role as Tim the Toolman Taylor in the sitcom Home Improvement. Number 13. Hunter S. Thompson was a heavy drug user and was addicted to cocaine, alcohol, and other substances. He was known for his gonzo style of writing, which was characterized by its use of first-person narration and its blurring of the lines between fact and fiction. His drug use began in his early 20s, and it quickly spiraled out of control. He was often drunk or high, and he would sometimes engage in reckless and dangerous behavior. His drug use also had a negative impact on his personal and professional life. In the late 1990s, he began to try to get sober. He went to rehab several times, but he was never able to stay clean for long. In 2005, Thompson committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. Number 14. Chris Farley was a talented comedian who struggled with drug addiction. He was reportedly in and out of rehab at least 17 times in the last 2 years of his life. He was born in Madison, Wisconsin in 1964. He began his comedy career in Chicago, where he performed at Second City and the Improv. In 1990, he was cast on Saturday Night Live. Farley quickly became a star on SNL. He was known for his over-the-top characters and his physical comedy. He also created some of the show's most memorable sketches, including the Chippendales audition and Matt Foley motivational speaker. Despite his success, Farley struggled with drug addiction. He began using cocaine and alcohol in his early 20s, and his addiction spiraled out of control in the late 1990s. In 1997, he died of a drug overdose at the age of 33. His death was a tragedy, and it is a reminder of the dangers of drug addiction. Number 15. Corey Haim was a Canadian actor who struggled with drug addiction. He began using cocaine in the early 1980s, and his addiction spiraled out of control in the late 1990s. He was in and out of rehab several times, but he was never able to stay clean for long. He was born in Toronto, Ontario, Canada in 1971. He began his acting career at a young age, and he quickly became the star of the 1980s teen film genre. He starred in films such as The Lost Boys and Lucas. He began using cocaine in the early 1980s, and his addiction spiraled out of control. He was in and out of rehab several times, but he was never able to stay clean for long, and in 2010, Haim died of pneumonia at the age of 38. Michael Hutchence was reportedly looking for cocaine in the days leading up to his death. He had a history of drug addiction, and he had been struggling with depression and anxiety in the months leading up to his death. On November 22, 1997, he was found hanging in his hotel room in Sydney, Australia. The coroner ruled his death a suicide, but there has been some speculation that he may have accidentally overdosed on cocaine and hanged himself while he was unconscious. He was a talented singer and songwriter. He was the lead singer of the rock band INXS, which released several multi-platinum albums including Kick and X. He was also a successful actor, and he starred in the films Dogs in Space and Fool's Gold. Number 17. Mitch Hedberg was a comedian who died of a drug overdose in 2005. He was known for his deadpan delivery and his absurdist humor. Hedberg's jokes often dealt with everyday objects and experiences in a unique and unexpected way. He was born in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1968. He began his comedy career in the early 1990s, and he quickly became a popular performer on the stand-up circuit. Hedberg released 2 comedy albums, Mitch Hedberg and Strategic Grill Locations, both of which were well received by critics and fans. He struggled with addiction throughout his career. He overdosed on cocaine and heroin in 2005, and he died at the age of 37. His death was a tragedy, but his humor lives on. His jokes are still quoted and enjoyed by fans all over the world. Hedberg is considered to be one of the most influential comedians of his generation. Number 18. Scott Weiland was the lead singer of the rock bands Stone Temple Pilots and Velvet Revolver. He struggled with drug addiction throughout his career, and he died of an overdose in 2015. He was born in Santa Cruz, California in 1967. He began his music career in the early 1990s, and he quickly became a successful singer and songwriter. He fronted Stone Temple Pilots, which released several multi-platinum albums, including Core and Purple. He struggled with drug addiction throughout his career. He was in and out of rehab several times, but he was never able to stay clean for long. In 2015, he was found dead in his tour bus. The cause of death was an overdose of cocaine, ecstasy, and alcohol. Number 19. Curt Hennig, the professional wrestler known as Mr. Perfect, died as a result of acute cocaine intoxication in 2003. He was 44 years old. He was born in Robbinsdale, Minnesota in 1958. He began his professional wrestling career in the early 1980s, and he quickly became one of the most popular wrestlers in the world. He was known for his perfect physique, his charisma, and his in-ring skills. He wrestled for several major promotions, including the American Wrestling Association, AWA, the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, and World Championship Wrestling, WCW. He won numerous championships, including the AWA World Heavyweight Championship, the WWF Intercontinental Championship, and the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. Hennig struggled with drug addiction throughout his career. He was in and out of rehab several times, but he was never able to stay clean for long. In 2003, he was found dead in a hotel room in Florida. The cause of death was acute cocaine intoxication. Thanks for watching this video on famous people who struggled with cocaine addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling with cocaine addiction, please reach out for help. There are many resources available, including treatment professionals and support groups. Remember, you are not alone. There is hope for recovery. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.